Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, Second Amendment attorney, constitutional attorney, best-selling author, and proud American gun owner. If you haven't subscribed to the Four Boxes Diner Second Amendment channel, please do so and show your love for the right to keep and bear arms. Okay, folks, we have a very special segment here today. We're interviewing a very famous and prominent attorney, Carrie Severino, who I'm sure you've seen repeatedly on shows on the Fox News Channel, CNN, and Newsmax, and on and on and on and on. Carrie is a former law clerk to one of our favorite justices of all time, Justice Clarence Thomas, who wrote, of course, the NYSERPA versus Bruen case, which everyone on this channel is well aware of. Carrie is the president of the Judicial Crisis Network. She's also a best-selling author, along with Molly Hemingway, of a prominent book. I'm sure you saw her making the rounds about a year ago, Justice on Trial, the Kavanaugh Confirmation, and the Future of the Court. We'll ask her a couple questions about that. First of all, you clerked for Clarence Thomas. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what it was like clerking for Clarence Thomas, who is the author of NYSERPA versus Bruen?
This is his 30th year on the court that he just completed. And I thought that was such a perfect way to kind of capstone this, particularly because it illustrates for me a pattern that he has had in his whole career, which is he tends to have these cases where he will highlight something that no one else is seeing and say, hey, this is an issue that, if we really wanted to take the Constitution seriously, we should be looking into. And that happened with him in a case called Prince, which was decided about, I think, almost exactly 25 years before the Bruen case, where he said, just in a concurrence, hey, by the way, we haven't really considered, does the Second Amendment actually convey an individual right to bear arms? And if so, we should clarify that. No one thought anything of it. I don't even think Justice Scalia joined him in it. It just was kind of this, here, I'm going to throw this out there. Fast forward a quarter of a century, and we have the court, not only in the Heller case, finally recognizing that right. That was the term I clerked, which was an outstanding term to be there. But then to finally, after kind of deciding that in Heller, the McDonald case, the court kind of dropped off looking at the Second Amendment for a long time. Then finally to be able to have that majority to come back and say, yes, we're taking it seriously. That really shows his influence. He went from being the lone person, one of nine, saying this is an important issue, to having a bare 5-4 majority to at least say there's an individual right to bear arms, to now having a solid majority saying, hey, and we're taking it really seriously. We're going to go with what the Constitution says. We're not going to invent some standards of scrutiny that aren't written in the Constitution. We're going to look at the words, and we're going to take this seriously. I think that illustrates his whole career. It's not just in the Second Amendment. He's done that in so many areas. We mentioned the jury trial. That's one where he's been very protective in that area. Religious freedom, First Amendment free speech as well. In the Dobbs decision, looking at substantive due process and some of the other ways we interpret the Constitution. So many different areas. He'll say, hey, wait a minute, let's get this right. Let's not just go along mindlessly and follow something else. Let's make sure we're getting it right. And on a personal note, I just can't think of a better human being to have worked for. Still, probably my favorite boss ever. Apologies to my current bosses, but he's just an outstanding man, a true patriot, a wonderful American dream story, really. And he still treats everyone he works with like they're not just you're below my pay grade. You're kind of helping me out here, but I'm the big shot. Even though he is obviously objectively a big shot, he treats every single person from the janitor up to the Chief Justice like a human being he's interacting with, and that was a wonderful model to see.
Carrie, you wrote a book with Molly Hemingway of The Federalist. It was an excellent book, Justice on Trial. It's the definitive account of the Kavanaugh confirmation process, which got very ugly. If you thought the Thomas confirmation process was bad, the Kavanaugh, I'd never seen anything so terrible, frankly, to see what people did to Brett Kavanaugh and to his family. But that ties into what we're seeing now. We see these leaks of opinions from the Supreme Court. We're seeing protests in front of justices' homes, which on its face appears to be illegal under federal law. But set that issue aside, as a trial lawyer, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to protest in front of a juror's home in the middle of a criminal trial, one way or the other. It doesn't seem American at all. So can you maybe tie in a little bit about what you learned about your book, Justice on Trial, that you wrote with Molly, and sort of tie that in with what's going on and what we're seeing today on the TV screen with these homes? These are literally homes with children in it being protested by people, and also this unprecedented leak of a Supreme Court opinion drafted. This is all unprecedented as best I can tell. What's going on, Carrie?
Yeah, and I think that one of the most damaging things about that leak, which is just going to totally undermine the trust that justices have in their clerks and in each other, is the fact that it clearly was done specifically to incite this kind of intimidation. It seems to be done to, like, hey, maybe there's a chance to still change the outcome of this decision. And remember, Justice Kavanaugh almost was assassinated as a result of that leak. And we now know that the guy who was his attempted assassin actually said he had said he was going to change the outcome of that case. So the reason he knew that he just had to switch one vote, knock off one justice, to do that was because of that leaked draft opinion. It sets a horrible, horrible precedent. And the idea of these protests in front of justices' homes is another huge. It's illegal, as you said, because they were protesting, again, to try to intimidate someone in the middle of a decision they were making. If you think of, I'm describing to you a country where judges don't rule based on what they think the legal result is, but because they're worried for their own safety and for that of their family. Would you think I'm describing the United States of America? That is not what our system is built on. We're built on the rule of law. And that's why we have judges who have life terms, because they don't want to have judges that are thinking, oh, if I do this, I'm not going to get a job later or whatever. We want them to be able to insulate themselves from that public, intimidation and harassment to some extent, because we want them to look at the law, not their personal interests here, whether it's finding a job or just keeping your family safe. Justice Barrett's family, and she's one that has the youngest kids on the court. Their school was outed. The place they go to church was named. Should they have to be afraid for their children's safety, simply sending them to church, simply going to school? I mean, this is really outrageous. And it's outrageous to me that despite, and my organization, JCN, just did some polling, American people, left, right, and center, agree. People shouldn't be protesting in front of the justices' homes. Protest all you want at the Supreme Court. We have a First Amendment right. I have done it myself many times on multiple issues. I commend to people to do that. When you go to someone's home, it's saying something different. It's saying, we know where you live. And we all know that's a threat. We know that it's played out already in this case, that people are threatening. So I'm concerned that we've seen Democratic politicians all the way up to the president himself refusing to condemn that kind of behavior. That's how we get more of it. That's how we get the unfortunate crazy person who takes it not even just to the level of being, disruptive and rude and threatening, but actually to, getting a weapon and going to their home. So I think we need to make sure that our politicians know they can't be simply encouraging it, or worse yet, standing like Justice Schumer did, or like AOC or Liz Warren have done, and stand at the court and suggest that actually that what they're doing is the right thing, that they should be harassing these justices, because it's happened on gun rights cases as well, where Senator Whitehouse filed a brief in the original New York rifle and pistol case a few years ago, saying if you don't rule our way, we might introduce legislation to pack the court. That's intimidation too, right? That's our senator saying, if you don't rule our way, we're going to undermine the Supreme Court. We need to stand against all of that, because we have to have our judges following the rule of law.
Well, Carrie, this has been great. I'll give you a chance right now. What you want to tell us just a little bit about the work you're doing now with the Judicial Crisis Network, the survey you just described. Do you want to tell us kind of what you're up to right now, and how people can follow you? Judicialnetwork.com is our website, and I tweet at JCN Severino, and Judicial Network is also the Twitter handle for our organization. We're dedicated to making sure that we have judges who are going to be faithful to the Constitution and the rule of law at the federal level, at the state level, and so we will kind of keep you updated through those various channels about what's going on in those areas. And again, recently we did this poll because we wanted to know, do the American people really stand behind this kind of extreme rhetoric that we're hearing from Democrat politicians and from some of the crazy groups that are protesting the justices? I was encouraged to see that again, across the board, they want to see those laws, the federal laws, the state laws, enforced that protect our judges and our public servants across the board. This isn't just protecting the Supreme Court justices. All of our federal judges need these levels of protection. But if we are concerned that people like Attorney General Garland, and ultimately the buck stops with President Biden,
if they're not going to enforce those laws against people simply because they're on the opposite side of the aisle, we've lost that rule of law. So we're here to defend the rule of law and to try to make sure we're protecting some of those great constitutional values that underlie America.